At 31, Adam Grant was the youngest tenured and highest-rated professor at Wharton, one of Business Week's favorite professors, and one of the world's 40 best business professors under 40. Within 7 years of achieving his PhD, he had published more papers in organizational psychology, the study of workplace dynamics, than colleagues who had won Lifetime Achievement Awards. When organizations like Google, NFL, the U.S. Army and Navy, and the United Nations want to figure out how to get the most out of their employees, and when people want to figure out how to get the most out of their jobs, it is Grant who has the answers. He is the author of Give and Take, a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling book offering a revolutionary approach to success. Combining a decade of cutting-edge research with fascinating stories, the book opens up a fresh way of thinking about success and illuminates new choices people can make to achieve it. We sat down with him to talk about how his ideas can apply to pharma to help us make change for better outcomes. Hi, my name's Jill Donahue. I'm the author of Engage RX, and I'm thrilled to be here sitting beside Adam Grant, the author of Give and Take, Revolutionary Approach to Success. Later tonight, Adam's going to be talking with a few hundred people downstairs here at the Rotman School of Business in the lovely Toronto. And we thank you so much, Adam, for taking a few minutes to come and chat with us first.
Thanks for having me.
I was so excited to read your book. As you can see from all the dog-eared pages here, I loved it and learned a lot from it. And I think there's a lot in here that can help the pharma professionals that I work with. One of the things that we teach in our program, Engage RX, is that people need to communicate why they're there in front of the person that they're trying to influence before they can have any influence at all. So I thought that might be a good place for us to start. So can you share with me why you wrote this book? What were you trying to change by writing it?
Well, I think a lot of it for me was driven by having conversations with many, many students over the last decade, where they would come by and they would ask for career advice. And I would ask them about their values and their goals, so the why question was turned around on them.
Okay.
And the most common response by far was, I really want to make a difference. So I'm going to accumulate as much wealth as I can for the next 35 years and then start giving back.
Oh, interesting.
Which is great for Bill Gates.
Right.
But for most of us, I thought that was backward.
Yeah.
And that actually many of the most successful people that I knew and had studied were giving first along the way to success. And when I told them that, they thought I was crazy.
Oh.
So I figured that I had to try to make a case for it. And here we have Give and Take.
And you proved it to them.
Well, I'll let you be the judge of that.
Yeah, I think so. Could you explain to me, so you categorized people into 3 groups, and could you just give the nutshell version of that, and with a special emphasis on the difference between the otherish giver and the matcher?
Sure. So I was really struck by all this evidence that across industries and across cultures, there are these 3 styles of interaction that show up repeatedly. So I think of them as styles of reciprocity. What's your motivation or your mindset when you're interacting with somebody else to exchange something of value, whether that's your time, your energy, or your resources. Okay. So on one end of the reciprocity spectrum, we have people that I call takers, who are always trying to get as much as possible from everyone else and never want to give anything back. It's very self-serving, all about me.
Yeah.
On the other end of that spectrum, we have these people that I call givers. And I'm not talking about philanthropy or volunteering here, but rather about being the kind of person who enjoys helping others and frequently does it without strings attached. Okay. So givers are often sharing their knowledge, being mentors, making introductions, and just providing support to the people around them. Okay. And as you know, I find that most people are somewhere in the middle of that spectrum, is what I call matchers. And a matcher is somebody who tries to keep an even balance of give and take, quid pro quo. So Jill, if I were a matcher and I did you a favor, I would expect an equal one back.
Right.
And then if you did me a favor, I would feel like I was in debt until I'd settled the score.
Okay.
So among the givers, to your point, it turns out that there are 2 different kinds of givers.
Yeah, this is the interesting part.
Well, for you at least. No, for me too. But the givers who are really vulnerable to burning out and being exploited, I call basically the selfless givers.
Right.
They're altruistic. They're always putting other people first. And that means that they sacrifice their time and energy. And they're an easy target for exploitation by takers.
Right.
But then there's this other group of givers who I call otherish, who are often putting other people first, but they keep their own interests in the rearview mirror. Okay. And so that means, they're still willing to help frequently without strings attached, but they're doing so in ways that sort of protect their own time and energy. It's a little bit like being on an airplane and sort of securing your oxygen mask before coming to the assistance of others.
Okay, so that fits really well for us in pharma. Many of the people that I work with are very sincere about wanting to put the patient first, and they understand that by putting the patient first, the profit will follow, and then everyone will win: the patient, the healthcare professional, the pharmaceutical company itself. Patients before profits. So when I talk to them about this, they're usually happy in their audience. When I share your references and say that giving works, they're usually so happy and relieved. But there's always a guy in the audience that looks at me like this.
It's the taker.
Well, and he's saying, now I'm going to get all these requests for more budget because my people are all going to want to be givers. So how do we help pharma professionals be givers without being too giving, with still being financially responsible?
Yeah, I think that's a dilemma for a lot of us. And as you know, one of the studies in the book is on pharmaceutical sales reps.
I love that one.
Showing that they actually, if they're givers, they fall behind in the first quarter or two because they're really reluctant to give very pushy pitches or to be aggressive in selling to their clients. But that over time, they ask a lot more questions. They also tend to build a lot more trust, which means more referrals, more repeat business. And when they do deliver a pitch, it's much better tailored to the interests and needs of their clients and customers. But I think in the short run, the question is, what do you do? And I think the answer for me, at least, is try to align your giving with organizational goals.
Okay.
It doesn't mean then giving away your products for free more than you can afford. It means thinking about, okay, what are the ways that we can share knowledge that would actually help out our customers?
Yes.
What are maybe some of the introductions that we can make if we sort of sit in the middle of maybe two groups of people who could benefit from knowing each other but currently don't? How can we connect the dots and build that bridge? And I think there are lots of forms of giving that fall in that category of being low cost to you, but highly beneficial to the people you're trying to serve.
Okay. And finding that sweet spot where we meet the patient's needs, the healthcare professional needs, and our value combined with our need.
I think that's the goal.
Okay, great. So these pharmaceutical associates I tell you about that are true givers, one of the challenges that they face is that they are painted with a stereotypical brush of being a taker.
Yeah.
So you've seen in the media the brush that sometimes we're painted with. So do you have any advice for them on how to show that they're different, how to get away from that stereotype? How do they communicate that?
Well, I don't think it's easy because the stereotype, unfortunately, is pretty strong and vivid in some parts of the business, for sure. Yeah. One of my favorite activities is called the reciprocity ring. And I think it's a great thing to do, actually, with a group of clients or customers to communicate what you're all about. So imagine that you're doing a client appreciation event, or you're even working with a bunch of healthcare professionals who you're going to be speaking with in a given day. Bring them together and ask them all to make a request for any kind of help that you might need or want, but cannot get on your own. And then what you do is you challenge everybody else in the room to try to contribute and fulfill the requests. You see quite a range of requests too. You get people who are trying to find a babysitter for their kids.
Right.
You have people who want to take their spouse to meet their favorite celebrity at a sporting event, for example, or a concert. Cool. You also have people though who have concrete business goals, and they say, look, I'm trying to accomplish this, but I don't know how to do it. Does anybody have any expertise here?
Right.
And what you do is you basically become the facilitator and the convener of these requests getting fulfilled, which I think is one way to show, look, I'm not just about selling something to you. I'm actually here to try to help you as much as I can.
Awesome. Great. Great idea. Thanks. That sounds like a fun night.
It's been a lot of fun. And actually, there are some examples that have been done with pharmaceutical companies where even people from competing firms step up to help each other.
Wow.
And they realize that these kinds of requests are not always zero-sum.
Right.
And so, my ability to make an ask doesn't then jeopardize my ability to solve another problem that I have.
Right.
Because if everybody walks in with the mindset of giving, then we often can find ways to help each other out and make everybody better off.
So Adam, what would you say would be the recipe or the mindset or even the behavior that a pharmaceutical professional should take to be a successful giver?
Well, I think the first step, obviously, is to figure out how can I serve patients. And trying to figure out what needs patients have that you can best address, I think, is the hallmark of a giver in the pharmaceutical industry. Then I think I would say, let's look internally and ask, okay, how can you best contribute to your colleagues? What's interesting is the starting point for that is just going around trying to keep track of what other people need and trying to figure out basically where other people's challenges or problems or goals might align with places where you feel you have some distinctive skills or expertise, right. And then trying to engage in a form of arbitrage, right, where you're trying to figure out where's the biggest gap between what other people are really trying to achieve and what I can provide. and then let me contribute where I can have the most unique impact.
And one of the things I struggle with is the difference between the otherish giver and the matcher. Is it all about the intention?
The intention is part of it. It's actually a huge part of it. So if I'm a matcher, I am going to expect something back every time I help each person. Whereas if I'm an otherish giver, I'm not going to worry about what I'm getting back from each of those people. Yeah. I'm just careful to set some boundaries and make sure that as I try to give with no strings attached, I'm not burning myself out, I'm not getting maybe exploited or taken advantage of by takers, and I'm really blocking out time to get my own work done and creating separate windows to try to be helpful.
Okay, so as we're helping the healthcare professional treat the patient, we're helping them in our therapeutic area, where our expertise, where we have that best, not in other areas, for example.
That, according to the evidence, I think is the safest way to go.
So in a few minutes, you're going to be going downstairs and talking to a few hundred people. I brought some of my pharmaceutical colleagues with me. If there was just one thing that you hope that they remember from your talk tonight, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. Boiling it down to one is so hard. I would say, let me give you two, and you can choose which one is more powerful. So
you can go three if you want. I'll give you that.
I'll probably run out after two. But I think the first takeaway is to say, look, successful givers are flexible in their styles. So it really doesn't mean giving in every situation or to every person. It means trying to add value wherever you can, but really making sure that you don't jeopardize your own ambitions and your own accomplishments along the way. And I think that really leads into the second point, which is my favorite takeaway from the research I did for the book, is the idea of the 5-minute favor. This comes from, as you know, Adam Rifkin, this incredible serial entrepreneur who's lived his life just trying to make the people around him better off. And Adam says, look, you don't have to be Gandhi, you don't have to be Mother Teresa. And in fact, that's not sustainable for most of us. Yeah. What you should do if you want to add a little bit more giving into your life is find ways of helping others that are high value to them but low cost to you. Introductions are a great example of that. Writing recommendation letters for people who have done something extraordinary but been invisible. Mm-hmm. Even a thank you note to somebody's boss, I think is a really powerful way to recognize them. And so I think we could all probably afford to do a few more 5-minute favors every week.
That's awesome. And also in our business, it's not just doing the favors for our partners, the healthcare professionals, but for each other within the organization, right? When your organization lives that, then it just gets better and better.
I think that's true, and we even have data to prove it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have data for everything.
That's my job.
Thank you so much, Adam. So looking forward to hearing you speak tonight and waiting for your next book and your next research project.
Thank you for being a giver.
Thank you.